So the just shall live by faith, and we are taught to walk by faith and not by sight. And Proverbs chapter 3 says, do not lean on your own understanding, but trust in the Lord with all your heart. And when we remember the children of Israel in the wilderness, there were many instances and situations where they were doubting God, and they were complaining to Moses. But as much as they were complaining to Moses, God would appear to Moses and say, they have not complained to you, but they have complained to me. So a pastor once said something that still resonates with me, and I don't want to mention his name because he's in a bit of situations right now, but his words were quite honest, to say the least. He said, when you walk with God, he will shock you. And that has some truth into it, because when you walk with God, he will take some routes that you would never think of. He would make you take some decisions that do not seem human. And when I was thinking about this statement and I was kind of directing it to God, my own realization helped me and directed the same thing to me, because almost all of human decisions also, they shock God. So you yourself can tell me who is right, because when God says let's go this direction and we're shocked, whenever we do things our own way and say, I'm just gonna get rich and she will like me, or I'm just gonna get that degree and I'll be somebody, in God's eyes these things also are shocking. So there's the man's way and there's God's way. So to speak on God for once, to say something fair to him, his ways may seem shocking, but you can best believe that they are the right ways. So the reason I say the just shall live by faith is because things may happen. They may come into your life and they may shock you. In the area of your academics, by this time you should have been at this moment. In the area of your professional career situation, career life, you should be a manager now. You should be at this other position. But God chose a different direction, and this might shock you. In the area of marriage, relationships, and family and children, your situation should be like this, should be a certain way, in the suburbs with a white picket fence and a nice lovely family car, but it doesn't seem to be like that, and you are shocked, like, God, like, in all human understanding, in all human logic, God, we should have gone this way, but God is shocking you. But I want you to know, don't be like those people who, whenever God shakes their life, they think God is the weird one. Don't be like those people. Don't be like the children of Israel, complaining every step of the way. And I'm telling you, when you read the book of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and the children of Israel are complaining every step of the way, you laugh at them, and you think if you were in their position, you would not complain against God. You would trust God. You would believe. You would just be thankful that at least God is your shepherd. God is the leader of your flock. But you don't realize that whenever you fail an exam and you blame God, you are just like the children of Israel. You don't realize that whenever you miss that position at work, or miss out on that thing that you really wanted, or lose that person who was the best idea of a wife for you, or the best idea of a husband for you, whenever you complain in that circumstance, you are being like the children of Israel. But if you are faithful in righteousness, doing your best at righteousness, doing your best at goodness and at faith, my brother and my sister, the just shall live by faith. Do not conform to the standard of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. Do not conform to the fact that at 30 years old you must drive a Polo. Do not conform to the idea that at 31 you must be married and in honeymoon phase with this lovely woman from church or this lovely man from church who's involved with a Bible study. That's a good man, and I understand. But if God has said, I know that the distance between Egypt and Canaan is not that long, and there's the highway, there's a freeway, there's a paved way, a tar road, a nice, tar surface. When God says we're gonna go by the wilderness, my brother and my sister, look at God in the eye and say, my Father and my God and my first love, the wilderness it is. When God says, we're going through singleness, I know that if you were married, sexual immorality will be better. Well, that's what you think anyway. But when I say singleness is the road, then singleness is the road that we're taking, my God. When God says joblessness is the road that we're taking, then joblessness is as long as God is the one you're with. Remember, God Himself is the promised land. So when He's taking you through the wilderness, just be happy that you've got what everybody's looking for. So the just shall live by faith. Faith says, when things seem like they're going the wrong direction, I will trust my God. Faith says, as long as I'm walking in righteousness, I'm forgiving my brother and my sister when they offend me at night. I know that sometimes it's tempting to think about them all night long. Like, why did they do that thing to me? My brother, are you still at that situation, at that point in your life? By now, God should have rebuked you so many times enough that you no longer get angry at a person more than 1 hour. In fact, sorry for the bad grammar, more than 1 hour. In fact, if they're still around, you could just go within an hour. You could just go back and apologize for that. So, brother and sister, you've got to walk by faith. The just shall live by faith. That means do not conform do not lean on your own understanding. Do not lean on your own understanding. And I tell you where stress comes from, and where complaints come from, and where lack of faith comes from, is because as a man, as a human, as a person living in this world, you have your own ideas. You have your own set of philosophy. You have your own set of understanding of the world. Like, if I get a car, life is better. Like, if I get a spouse, life is better. When I get a house, life is better. When I get that degree, life is better. When I get a promotion at work, life is better. A $30,000 salary, that's a great life is better. But God does not think like a man. God does not sit down and say a 30,000 rand salary is so good, a spouse is so good, a house is so good. No, there's a degree of goodness in this thing. But God says character development is so good. Character righteousness is wealth. He has said it in His word. He didn't say a car, a Maserati is a good place to be in life. No, He Himself has said in the book of Proverbs, wisdom is better than silver and gold. I mean, if in His eyes wisdom is better than silver and gold, do you think silver is the first thing He'll give you? Do you think gold is the first thing he'll give you? Of course, time is the first thing that He'll do for you. But just be in agreement with God. Do not lean on your own understanding. Do not, just because you failed at something, don't think you failed in. As long as you're walking, you know what your failure is. Your failure is responding to your elder. Your failure is responding to your brother or sister. You see, now you know you're failing. And now at this point, even if you had that car, even if you had that house, even if you had that woman, if you are responding bad back to people, if you are refusing people when they ask for a bottle of water, if you are refusing people when they ask for 5 rands, just 5 rands, then you know you failed. That's failure for you. So today I was just praying to God, and I was worrying about this woman that I loved so much, and I was agreeing to let them go. But while agreeing to let them go, because the Lord said so, I was saying they better not, are they gonna get married before me now, or are they gonna be happily married without me? Are they gonna forget me? And God said, what if I wrote a whole book about their lives, and in that book it includes them being happily married and having to forget you? Are you gonna fight against what I wrote down about them? Are you a control freak? And this control freak quote was from the same pastor whom I used to love, and it helped me, when he was saying it. So yeah, man, am I a control freak about life? Must it turn out the way I want it to turn out? Must everybody around me act the way that I want them to act? Or must I act the way God wants me to act? And is success for me having that car, or is success for me being perfect in God's eyes? So what is the message of the day? The just shall live by faith. Walk by faith and not by sight, and do not lean on your own understanding. Those set of ideas that you've built for yourself, those set of plans, those set of thoughts, those set of perspective in life and philosophy, it does not always come from God. Like, we develop our ideas out of fear. Like, when you are young, they say in this world there's such a thing as homelessness and wifelessness and husbandlessness. They tell you that sometimes if you end up without, like, when you get old, you must be rich, you must have your own things. So as you're growing through life, and also you begin to taste failure, like what failure feels like, what disappointment feels like, you start thinking, you start having defense mechanisms. Like, when people treat you wrongly, you start solving it the human way. Like, one day I'm gonna park a BMW next to them and they're gonna feel it. Like, it comes from experiences. You try to go out with a girl and she says no. You say, one day I'm gonna have a big house and I'll post it on Facebook and I'll make sure she see it. Like, these thoughts of yours, they were not necessarily from faith, but they were from fear. But if you pause, like, just think for a moment right now, what would be the worst thing about not having a car for you? And let's be honest, it's people. But you're called to walk like the apostles and prophets. You're called to live off of the grid. It doesn't matter. And to be honest with you, I've learned that when I don't have what I thought I wanted, I have what God wants for me. Like, this year I didn't have a place to stay, and when I didn't have a place to stay, I was sleeping in the classrooms and the securities, like at the University of Johannesburg, and the securities were always chasing me out. Sometimes I had to run away from a class and leave my blanket and went to another place and didn't have a blanket, and that night was cold. But God caused me to meet a brother who was a part of a good church, and he had a good heart, and they invited me to their church, and now I've been with them at their church. To this day, I sleep with them. I mean, I'm still hoping to find my own place with my own family in the future. But this was my limit. By myself, I'm homeless. By myself, I have nothing. And by myself, I couldn't feed myself. But God has put me in a place where I live with the brothers and sisters, and there's so much food at that church. So what I'm saying is, just because your plans and your ideas are not the ones that are happening, it doesn't mean that God's plans are not happening. His plans was for me to be with brothers and sisters. And with those brothers and sisters, I've made so much spiritual progress. And in God's eyes, that's the priority. And this woman that I thought I want, what was I going to do? What kind of a leader would I be to her without spiritual progress? And I wanted to start with the wife. I wanted to start with the degree. I wanted to start with the job. What about the spiritual progress? How am I going to impact that office environment if spiritual progress is not there? So, brothers and sisters, lean not on your own understanding. Don't idolize your own ideas. Don't put on a pedestal your own plans for life. No, surrender it all to God. And I still struggle with this. I think I'm ministering it because God is dealing with me about it. Like, this one time I was at the office and I looked at myself and said, son, you've done so good before God, but there's one thing you're refusing to do. You're refusing to die to your ideas, to your plans, and to fully die to who you think you are. So it would be so good if you completely died. Let us die and let God's glory and light shine in full. Those witches and those people who can see in the spirit, when they look at you in the spirit, let them see God himself. Why not? Because you yourself have completely died. So let us die to self, die to our ideas and our plans, and walk by faith and not by sight. Those things that you think you want to achieve, sometimes you go to that conclusion of wanting to achieve them because of fear of something, because of fear of someone, maybe your siblings. If your siblings were to check and still see that you're failing in life, you may feel like that sibling competition is putting pressure on you. But happy to be under sibling pressure than to be a disappointment before God. So let God, just because my plans are not in motion doesn't mean God's plans are not in motion. Rather, when I'm homeless by human standards, I mean, let's be honest, God will always bring something. God will always bring some money. Like, whatever it is he does, it will always be something. Even by the time he brings you out of your wilderness and now it brings you into a good place in life, it will not be by your strength, but by his strength. And if it's his strength anyway, why not surrender now?